Hello. Oh, you can't see me. Hello, everyone, and welcome to DevSecCon Global. I'm so excited to be here. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sam Hepburn, and I'm one of the community organizers of the DevSecCon, and pretty much work behind the scenes to make magic happen. But today, I'm so excited. I'm going to be joined by Ricky van Rijn, and he's going to be talking about how to automate your security testing for free with ZAP Proxy. But before I invite him on stage, I just wanted to give you a little bit of housekeeping. So for those of you who are the first time watching, we should be live streaming on YouTube, or you're on the devseccon.com website. But in order to interact with Ricky today, we are going to ask if you can join us on Slack in the live sessions channel. It's the best way to interact with all the other community members, as well as Ricky, to send questions. So if you're not part of our Slack community, if you go to devseccon.com, there's a join Slack at the top, top in the middle. Click on that. Join us in the live sessions channel, and we can have a chat in there, and it'll be absolutely amazing. For those of you who are interested in our podcast or any of our other global sessions, devseccon.com is also the place to find out all the information about that. I think that is honestly enough from me. Let's invite Ricky on stage to say hello. Hi, Ricky. How are you?
Hi, Sam. I'm doing great. Thank you. I hope everything is well there. And I'm going to enjoy our session.
Yes, thank you so much again for joining us. Everything's good in sunny, not so sunny London. Are you in the Netherlands at the moment?
Yeah, I'm in the Netherlands, and well, the weather is not that good. It's not raining, but it's quite gray.
The joys of living in Europe.
Yep.
Well, as I said to everyone, Ricky's going to be covering a great session today, and we're really excited about it. So I think that's enough from me. I'm going to bring his slides into the screen here. I'm going to hand over to you, but again, if anyone has any questions, please pop them in our Slack community, or if you're watching on YouTube, you can also pop it in the comments, and I'll get those questions over to Ricky during the session. So over to you, Ricky.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. Well, hello everyone. Thank you for joining my session about automate your security test for free with ZAP Proxy. And I'm a software architect at Ordina, and I'm now going to state some things that I'm going to talk about. Of course, I'm going to start who am I, and then I'm going to do a little introduction to the OWASP ZAP tool. Then I'm going to talk about why OWASP ZAP. A few demos, which I'm gonna put up in a sequential leveling system. First, a quick demo about the graphical tool, and then let's automate stuff. And that's the cool part. And maybe if there's some time, we can look into some scripts, but that's only if there's enough time. I'm also going to show you how to run the scripts. So, well, more about that later. And of course, at the end, some question and answers. And I'm hoping there are some, and if not, then I'm hoping I'm going to inspire you all. First of all, who am I? I'm a software architect at Ordina in the Netherlands. And most of my experience is with governments, enterprise organizations, and I spent a few years in the robotics section, which is a little bit more technical, but also there is a lot of security going on. Besides that, I also like to do some sports, and usually I'm like a few hours a day in the gym. So I have a sportivity level self-set over 9,000. And I'm also eager to the automated first principle. So when we start a project, and it's possible, of course, if it's a greenfield project, let's automate the most out of it to gain the most profit out of it. I love it when it's kind of efficient, and we're gonna move down to the core business. And of course, that's easier said than done. But I'm also a fan of security by design. That means that I'm really from the requirements specification until the decommissioning phase. I'm all over the place, giving advice and bringing in policies to that. A work process for us developers, testers, everyone at hand at the project. Also, I'm an OWASP ZAP evangelist, and only means that I have I'm stated at a website of OWASP ZAP, but then again, there are a lot of OWASP ZAP evangelists which you can ask to, well, give a workshop or anything else, a talk like this, or even come by and show you some nice tricks with OWASP. Why did I choose for ZAP? Of course, because it's open source. And why do I say because? Of course, because most of the governments a policy that you first look at the open source options before you go to the commercial options. So if you got some nice commercial stuff, then they say, okay, let's look at the open source because they need to be transparent to everybody, to themselves, but also for their clients, our citizens. It's free. I love it when things are free. Maybe it's because I'm Dutch, but I just like it to be free, and I also like it that it's open for cloning and working on it. Everybody can get involved. There's a lot of documentation about it, and I'm hoping that there is a significant growth in tutorials. So there are a lot of people who already made some, but they're kind of the same persons. So maybe I'm going to inspire today someone who's also going to make some tutorials. And what I like to talk about in the as a first starter is how I got involved. And I think it's quite interesting, and it has something to do with the whole context in this presentation, because a few years ago I got asked by a manager for another programmer, a junior programmer who's just joined the company, and they asked just explain something about security. How do you manage to do something? How do you make software secure? And I really was stunned. I didn't know the answer right then, and the only thing I could come up with was things like, well, a good design pattern or something. I don't know. You got some scanners, virus scanner. Okay, wasn't really the greatest answer, but also got me triggered because I didn't really knew the answer, and I hated that. I hated that so much. I wanted to know, but how do I get to know? So I turned into Google, of course, like we all do at some point, and I got to OWASP. And besides the OWASP top 10, which probably almost every developer knows, there's a lot behind OWASP, and this is one of the flagship projects, OWASP ZAP. And it got me curious. What's behind the OWASP story? What's more? What can I do with it? What are the other flagship projects? So okay, there's a lead there, and then there was a conference here in Amsterdam. Then I'm talking pre-pandemic, so it was live. It was in a huge center, and the things I saw there, I was quite modest. I just went to there and I just said, oh, I'm just a developer looking out for some security answers. Not here to say anything. And but the things I got to see there, it inspired me a lot. And the most beautiful thing was I was in a talk which just was all about scripting with OWASP ZAP. And I kind of loved the fact that it was somehow security with scripting. So at that moment, I thought, wow, I can do something with this. And what are things? What are stages where I can do something? I also got to the OWASP SAM, the architecture model. I really loved it, and all the phases of a project were there. There's some nice visuals also, but okay. And I thought I can do something with this, and I like to automate it. So, but first I needed to check some things on my own. And how did I do that? I just downloaded OWASP ZAP, and well, just clicked through some things. But before I go on with the OWASP ZAP in general, I needed to say that for OWASP ZAP to test and get a little feeling with it, you also need a web application, because it's stated OWASP Open Web Application Security Program. Nice to know. But then again, I'm in the core, I'm a Java developer, and I worked a lot with Spring and Spring Boot to be specific. And I thought, well, just a little demo project with no more than one endpoint, and just to use it with OWASP, and let's click through it. And that looks a little bit. I hope you can still see my screen. It's going. Let's see. I just popped up. It's a little bit specific about the Java stuff, but this is how it looks like. The application I've used and I'm using right now, of course, with just one endpoint /form. And there's a little bit very old school HTML in it, HTML 4.0, I guess. It really hasn't a lot of features about it, but then again, it's enough for testing. So what I did is that I just run it. And in this case, I'm waiting for my things. Here it's quite small on the screen, I guess, but this only states that the Spring Boot application is running. And the only adjustment I've made, besides adding one endpoint, is that I'm running it on another port than the standard port. It's 8090. That's because the OWASP ZAP I'm using, the proxy, is running at 8080. Else we got a collision right there. So this is a little bit basic. One endpoint. What's the endpoint looks like? What does it produces? Well, this hello world. It is one of the most used sentences in new tutorials. Hello world. So why don't I use it for this presentation? Well, okay. Now we've seen it. It's working. My local host, my web application, but of course we're here for OWASP ZAP. And what I'm doing here is just open it. I took a first look at it to make the screen size some bigger, but that I wasn't able to figure that one out quite easily. However, in this case, the first thing that pops up, besides this neat little thingy, I'm gonna drag there. There's a quick start. That's how you, when you open it, that's where you land, and you can do some, well, manual exploring, learn more. Of course, there is documentation about it, how you can use it, also how you can get involved, developer tutorials, all kinds of stuff. But to do just a quick and easy testing, we'll go to the automated scan function. And I already pre-inserted it with, well, the address of my local host of the Spring Boot application. And after I did that, I used the spiders just to attack my own web application. It sounds really neat, right? And still, this is just the graphical user interface. This is as is. You download it and you can use it manually, of course. That's why I'm clicking, looking at some stuff here, and I'm waiting. It's also stating in it below, it's running through my local host port 8080. It's gonna run some nice scans. Of course, there are some alerts because, well, I haven't done anything complex or anything in that matter. And there are some alerts. And of course, this alert is basically here. I'm gonna open it. There is some information about it, and the most practical thing, and I'm going back to this one later, is that it's yeah, this is some kind of report you can use for adjusting your web application to make it more secure. So as this one states, there's a header not included, which can protect against clickjacking attacks. And also the solution provided in the report is language agnostic, which means that it doesn't provide you with a specific answer which is for Java developers, Python developers, or any language at all, a programming language. It just states you need to add a header for this to protect yourself against clickjacking attacks. And then it's up to you as a developer how to do that. Well, okay, nice, but this is all manual. Oh, wow. Let me just click that away. Thank you. That was some coworker. Okay, and this is manual. This is a report just generated when I clicked attack. Well, that's not automated at all. Okay, well, but it's nice to know if you want to get some feeling with it. What's it gonna do? What's it generating in its report? And if you are not able to automate it on your project, this is also a way to check if your web application is, well, a little bit of solid, safe enough. And of course, one of my arguments is before a pen test, I need to make them a hard time. Because if you're not doing this at all these things, all the easy parts, which I quote, are just too easy for them. They're just doing the same stuff, and the report, probably if the application is bigger, also the list is bigger, you just get this list, and they're not even trying harder, because why do that if the application is not solid at all? It's not secure. It's too easy for them, and it's not fun for them either, because if they want to really do a pen test, they want the hard stuff. They want to do some authorization leak or any root elevation, stuff like that, cross-site scripting, but then on a harder level, not just one attack button and just a report comes up and whoa, there are more than 80 alerts with a risk higher than medium. Well, that's not worth it. And it's, as you can see here, it's easy to get behind that. But this, which I think is level 1, you just do it as a developer and you do it manually. Okay, well, then I go back to my presentation. It was a little bit of a context about OWASP ZAP. Of course, there's a lot more into OWASP ZAP besides this spider attack, and you can also manipulate the HTTP requests. And just to show the steps from the demo, how to use the graphical user interface, you just start it, you go to the automated scan, you run the Ajax spider, and I did it with the Firefox headless, but you can also use a browser from your own preference. So that's not that's all up to you. Maybe it can show you some other results based on the browser. Then you look up to the I
have a question for you. Well, we have a few questions on the Slack at the moment, but we've had a question come in from someone that wants to know what's the best way for someone to contribute to an OWASP project like ZAP?
That's a great question. Well, I was going to do that later, but the best way to contribute is oh, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm gonna do this right now. To contribute to the OWASP ZAP, of course, you need some programming skills, but I guess that's already in the pocket if you're going to ask something like that. That's assumption. But then again, there's a website to which I'm also having in this presentation, which I share at the end with all of you people. And there are some docs, how to documentation and tutorials how to set up your own development environment. And there is a huge list, and the godfather of OWASP ZAP is Simon Bennett, has a list in his head and partially on the GitHub issues, stuff like that. And there you can choose something which you like, and you can work on that. Basically, something I want to work on right now is on an add-on, the automation add-on, which also later on is I'm going to show to you to perform automated run based on a session. And that's one issue you can put on your name like that. Of course, you need to communicate with the others, but Simon Bennett is quite the leader in that. And he's also on Twitter. Simon is his Twitter account. You can also find him through my Twitter account, obviously, because I'm following him like no one else. So that's easy. And there's a lot of documentation on how to set up your environment. That can be IntelliJ, Eclipse. It's all Java based.
Awesome. We'll put all those links in the show notes and send them out on Slack after for anyone's watching. We also had a question around GitHub Actions. Is there one for ZAP?
Okay, can you say that again?
Is there a GitHub action for ZAP, for OWASP ZAP?
A GitHub, yeah. There's a link to the, but that's also in one of the links in my presentation. Okay, there you can clone and run it for yourself, of course, and you get the dev build, and you get also to the experimental stuff if you like. But that's also there. You can clone and run it. And eventually, even there, you can perform your own kind of your own breed of OWASP. And hopefully, if you do something great, let's share.
Perfect. So we've got a few more questions coming in, but let's carry on with the session. And so we can make sure we get through all the content. And then for anyone watching, Ricky and I will have a chat closer to the end of the session to bring all your questions are great. Keep bringing them in.
Yeah, of course. And most of the question with where the URLs are at, they're also in this presentation at the end. And of course, if there are any more, contact me through Twitter, and I will send you all the details and stuff like that. It's no problem at all.
No worries. Okay.
So let's head on. ZAP uses different modes too, and I clarify that a little bit here. I'm not going too deep on it in this presentation because I need to keep it a little bit standard. But this is something that got me curious because it's right in the left upper corner, and I'm like, what? What is it? Well, it's kind of an operating mode. There's a safe mode, that there are no dangerous operations through the payloads and stuff like that. It's all nothing gets harmed, to say that. Nothing gets manipulated. It's easy. There's nobody in a blue uniform coming at your door and knocking and what are you doing? So that's not the case. Protected is another mode which only allows potentially dangerous operations within the scope. So that's only within your web application. If you have a URL pointing at, let's say, for example, Google, well, they're not going to do that. And they better not. If that's going to run every time, I think that's a little bit tricky. So that's that's a mode between safe and standard. Standard is kind of, I see it as a kind of a passive way that you can do almost anything, and you can run the spider against the whole application, and let's see where it takes you. But again, here are no new nodes actively scanned, and that brings me to point number 4. The new nodes that are in scope are actively scanned when discovered. So when there are new URLs or something like that, another endpoint discovered, there's a choice that the crawler goes deeper into that or it just doesn't. So in that way, that's more a kind of aggressive way to use OWASP ZAP. Well, I will say when you got your own application, well, try it, but only at your own application. Don't use it to attack Google or something. I just don't advise that. That's illegal also in most countries, so please don't. So I must state that for my own insurance. But level up, nice. Finally, the basics are here. I assume we got it in our fingers. The whole OWASP ZAP thingy. Okay, pipelines, and most of the software projects have a pipeline. And how do we use that? Most of the times in this case, I've worked with Dockerized pipelines, and either way, it's a pipeline running through Jenkins, and it can communicate with some kind of Docker image, or it's the pipeline running in a Docker container. Either way, I'm not going too deep into the Docker thing. However, I am using Docker to use my content from here on. And therefore, I see I made it the red is the command I'm using. The Docker run. I use my path working directory because I'm on a Mac. I'm using my MacBook, which is kind of Linux based, and the $ PVD is based on that path working directory. I'm linking it to the inside container map, and then again I'm using the ZAP to Docker stable image, and I like to use the stable image because it's frankly enough stable. And from there on, I'm using the baseline scan. It's a Python script, the ZAP baseline, and I just showed you a little demo with the spiders. It's kind of the same. The IP address I've inserted here is well, phony, so I can use it to well, make an external IP address. If I'm entering localhost here, it just stays within this Docker container. So please be aware of that if you are using it to check on your own localhost, well, it's running from inside a Docker container, so it's not getting out of there. So use your local IP address from your local network, just something like this. 192.168. something. Then again, we're generating some configuration file and a test report. In this case, an HTML test report. And that's where the fun comes in. Because the test report, and I'm just going to show you something. I really love this part. Let's see if I'm doing the right thing. That's for later. That's better. Okay, let me just put this one down, hoping you can read it. Make it some kind of bigger. It's the same command which is in the sheets. Only I got another URL from some node on a cloud environment which I got, and therefore I'm running it. I'm running it now live, so hopefully it doesn't take too long because I did it a few times. And then it's going to generate a test report, which end up in my path working directory, which in this case already also got open in my Finder view. Normally it was some quicker. And there, because it's a HTML report, I can use it also not only for developers, but also for the other roles within a team. As a Scrum Master, product owner, stuff like that, which can also be readable for them. What is it? What's the risk, and what's needed to solve the whole case? Well, let's open one. You see a warning 5, and it passes 48 times. And nicely done. Almost. Well, there it is, my home folder. And here is the test report today generated at 15:30. That's my time here. Maybe it's another time at Europe. But here in Holland, it's 3:30. If I open it, boom, there is a HTML scanning report, which is kind of lovely because here you can have a visual representation of the report, and this is something I can also give to my my product owner. And yeah, it's still some has some details which they probably don't think is interesting, but the solution most of the times also the description is enough for them to make a risk calculation and say, yeah, we're going to fix that, or no, let's keep that risk in mind, but don't do anything yet. Okay, fine. That's a choice. Not always my choice, but again, that's for the team to decide with the product owner. Lovely, right? And this is also I've got yes, I got it here. I also got here a Jenkins file that's on a repo. Also there, the links, stuff like that, are all shared. And what I'm doing here in this, it's already a little bit older, but the main thing is that my report, which I've generated here, is saved as an artifact as a result from the pipeline. And therefore, I think it's quite interesting when we have a HTML report generated out of the pipeline, and at the end, it's saved as an artifact also for history reasons. So if there's anything that went wrong on a production level, where did it went wrong? Oh, there's a report out of the pipeline that's already stated, and we weren't alert enough. Okay, that's possible, but again, that's just one run to rule them all. I like to say, and that's this this command. I'm gonna make it big again, and a little bit of breakdown. We're gonna walk through this one quite fast. Using the baseline scan Python script here with the target dash t minus t is the target, including the protocol. So HTTPS or HTTP, that's also needed to state. It doesn't do anything if it gets an error, because it doesn't know how, where, what. Because if you make SSL HTTPS on not the standard 443, but another port, yeah, it doesn't know that. You need to specify everything. You can also specify the listening port. I do it within the target, but you can also do it with the minus capital P. Then I'm generating a default configuration file which in this case, all parameters are default set to warn. Of course, I can specify my custom configuration file or a URL, and that's what also the fun comes in. If you got some configuration server or something like that, you can just specify the URL to the configuration file, and then you can load that. You need to make sure that it's up and running, but hey, again, it's kind of dynamic and I kind of like it automated. That's my point of view. And here I'm generating the report in HTML. And there are some other formats you can generate. The JSON format is quite lovely, I think, because I can use the output and even set some guards to let the pipeline fail or pass or whatever. I can manipulate my reaction to it. That's cool for a developer's point of view. Well, of course, there's a lot more parameters than that. -H, and you can see more options. And I got some free tips to look at. The delay before the start scanning. Some web applications take some time to start, and if you are too early, well, it doesn't do anything good because you don't get your report. So a little delay is possible, and also some ZAP command line options. So also another level up, as I'm quite enthusiastic and taking a long time every time a single command. Okay, well, in this case I'm taking a Docker ZAP as a server. So in some cloud providers, I see a typo, sorry for that, you can bring your own components. So a little bit of your own Docker container, which is running all the time, and you got something like Postman for the testers, but also in this case the Docker ZAP, the OWASP ZAP Docker for security scanning. One of many tools, by the way, but I'm just showing you the Docker of OWASP in this presentation. Also note here the quotations around the dots asterisks because some operating systems don't like the wildcard. And this is why this is where the part comes in for how to do things on your local machine and how to do it within our cloud platform with all kinds of components and Docker containers. Because what I just showed you with my OWASP ZAP graphical interface is just on my own machine. So I'm using my own machine as a proxy, and I'm using a web application on my own machine. So it's all on my machine, works on my machine. Now, I'm not quite fan of the term works on my machine. I would like to isolate it and make it more solid and transferable, shippable. So that's why I like to bring in the cloud pipeline and the bring your own component vision. So if you do a scan or a proxy attack, to say it like that, you need to have your own component. So it's running a baseline scan of it's first of all it runs your application, and through the application it's running a baseline scan, and that's running through the proxy against your application. The results are returned to the pipeline and eventually stored at a pipeline result. Well, that's advisable. It doesn't need to be, but why would you else make a scan? I would like to set some guards on it and have the result at any time available for anyone who asks. It's a little bit quick, but again, level up, the automation framework add-on. And that's where the fun comes in. That's the automation add-on I mentioned earlier. And in this case, it's going to replace the command line package scan options of OWASP ZAP. That's what already stated. And for support I can only advise to use the auto generation options, and I stated here in the presentation the auto gen max, and that's gonna generate a YAML file with all the possible parameters which you can use for the automation framework to run. And of course, you don't need to implement them all, but it gives you a view of what's possible at this moment. Of course, in time, it's get extended and extended, but again, the AutoGen Max takes you to all the parameters which are available. And the thing I like, because of the governmental projects I've done and I'm doing, the specific support for an open API, which is a standard which is most of used in the governmental environment, and of course in many other projects as well. I am doing this on my Mac, and on my Mac it's on a specific location. On many tutorials it's zap.sh and then the command, but on my Mac it's called OWASP space zap.sh. Well, okay, so you need to use an escape character for the space. Then I brought up the OWASP ZAP auto gen max. I first specify that I'm going to run a specific command, AutoGenMax, and of course the file name. You can also enter a path if you feel needed. And the bare minimum that's required, that's also stated in the AutoGen min. I've got a little example for that, and seeing the time, that's quite good as well. Here again. So this is the minimum. There you go. So there goes the font to a bigger size. That's more lovely, isn't it? Well, I've already made some adjustments to it. I'm not going through the whole list. That's a little bit much, but what I like to go through here is the comments. All the options are commented with what is needed and how you can fill it in, and if it's mandatory or optional, or the defaults. What are the defaults? So it's quite well documented, to say it from my point of view. And then again, here is the requester, which I'm going to show real quick in the OWASP ZAP. It's a little bit against the automation add-on. Well, also here we got a spider, stuff like that, which you can also find in the GUI, the graphical user interface, and you can work this one out until you're happy and you're completely fulfilled. It's quite nice. I would say try it out at your own device. And I'm gonna show you how the results are made. Let's run it. I like to show what you got. So it's taking quite some time, so I managed to keep my output here in the terminal, and here you can see it's performing a lot of things, setting environments, variables, requesting URLs, performing just the bare minimum, have some output on it, some errors, warnings, information messages, and at the end also some TLS certificate errors. Okay, that's probably good because I'm not using it. And there's a generated report also. Command looks like this. It's, well, I think it's not difficult, but I'm using the ZAP shell script with a command auto run, and then I pass the configuration YAML file as a parameter, and well, it's run automatically all the different types of tests you have entered here in the YAML file. So to see what's in the report here, and I've managed to already open it. Here it is. There's a lot of, well, there's a summary, all kind of things. Oh, there's a risk, medium. No, I like to know what it is. Oh, it's content type options header missing. What does it all do? Oh, it's a sniffing header, which I don't have because I didn't set it. And this is just on my local machine, so its reports are generated also here in HTML, and you of course can store it at some point in your pipeline or on a storage or something like that. And in this case, I think it's quite cool that you can also share this with your fellow colleagues, but also it's more readable for your product owner, managers, stuff like that. So then again, to run it, I already showed it. You push or you set the command, auto run, and then the configuration YAML. And of course, you can use the ZAP from within a Docker and auto run it with a configuration YAML. There's nothing holding you back. So for here, I already I hopefully have given you a lot of things to think about and to implement, and maybe you got another vision on how to perform this within your project or your hobby project, professional project. Don't mind, it's already cool that you can do such a lot of things with this. And I already mentioned the requester job in the YAML, which is also available in the graphical user interface. And I'm quickly going to show you that it's right here. And here I can make a new plan. And there's a requester. And here I can add and then specific URL and make sure the outcome is what I expect. A name that's up to you. Check. The method, I would like to state it's a get. Well, make it work then. And the response code is what you expect as a HTTP response code. In this case, 200, because I saw it was a HTTP status OK. And I'm going to save that. Another time I'm going to save that. I'm going to run that. Of course, I got an error because the default context needed to have a URL on it. Oh, that was quick. Of course, it needs to have your context with a URL on it. You need to provide a scope, and then you can fire at will on some endpoints and eventually state if it's okay or not. If I'm gonna change this one to a 202, which for most cases is also acceptable, but it's quite hard. Now I've got a warning because the difference in response code values I'm going to show for the message, is there. There's a difference. 200, 202. Okay, and from there on, you can play with it, and you can make it you can extend the complexity. You can also edit for the automation of your web application, just to check if the URLs are responding. You can also send some optional data in the request body for a post or anything else put, and check on the response codes. More information about this add-on is, and specifically in this case, the job requester are on this URL, which of course is shared with you after the meeting. This document will be shared. Another custom made, and that's the cherry on the pie, like a typical Dutch expression. How to add custom security test scripts, and then we're going to the Zest. And that's one thing I got really enthusiastic about, although I'm not done a lot with it, because I'm still a Java developer, but I would like to do more with it in the near future. It's stated to, well, how do I say that? The ZAP shell command, shell script is run with a command called script, and then the or a script file is added as a parameter, and then the script file, if everything works out, is run. And yeah, of course, based on what's in the script file, it's working or not. But that's quite of dynamical. In most cases, it's just up to you, because you're the programmer of the script. And but that's just a little lead for most of the programmers, which I can imagine are more enthusiastic about scripting and programming on the custom scripts. So yeah, I would say go to the URLs which I provided right here. There are some community scripts which are available, sort of boiler templates which you can use. Also more on the internal scripting GitHub page of ZAP Proxy. Also the github.com/ZAP Proxy is also the GitHub from OWASP ZAP. And I also added a URL for a guide of the Zest scripting with OWASP ZAP, which is dated from 14th of August 2020. There are a lot of other tutorials, but this is one of greater quality. From my point of view, that's my opinion about it. One thing I need to say is the script add-on is not yet supported by the automation framework. Then again, you can also provide it through the script command and add your scripts on the command line, just like the earlier slide here. And some useful links, of course, which I can imagine are quite cool. And if there are any more links which you would like to have and need, I will add it, and we'll share the presentation later on. So also here we go. Get involved. The ZAP Proxy docs for developer. This is the URL. Please join and make it bigger, better. The more, the merrier. You can download the OWASP ZAP Proxy tool in the most upper link. You can follow ZAP Proxy on Twitter. It also has a bot which states handy tips, but also updates about the ZAP Proxy application. So that's it from my side. And are there any questions? I can imagine there are a lot, and quite out of time, but okay.
There's definitely some chatter on the Slack at the moment, and if anyone is listening and has some questions for Ricky, please throw them into Slack or into the YouTube comments, and I'll get them over to him. But your first question is, someone would like to know, how hard would it be to integrate it on CI for a system that requires a user or pass authentication? so that ZAP can access wall garden pages?
Okay, yeah, there is a parameter for it that and other options that you can use to not only attack the application from the outside, so the non-authenticated part, but also to give in some authentication to run it from within an authentic part of your web application. So you can also check if the user hasn't got any administrator rights or something like that. So that is possible, and I'm not able to explain any more in detail now, but I probably will make another presentation about things like that in another time. But
We'll have to have you back on DevSecCon with that presentation to explain it.
Oh yeah, most definitely, because this is really the basics, and I was hoping for some question like this, because that's eager to just do more of it, because that's the next part, just not only the not authenticated part, but also the authenticated part, because you also need to especially need to test your own stuff, because that's where the magic happens.
Definitely. Another question I've got for you, and apologies if I butchered the question itself, but when you were showing the spidering earlier on in your presentation, someone asked, so the spidering you were just showing now found the missing X-frame option and X-context type. Mm-hmm. Those two headers are depreciated, yet are still recommended by OWASP ZAP to fix from what it looks like. What is your thought on that?
Oh, that's a matter of opinion, right? Okay. Yeah, that's well, for me it's quite easy, because I know there are some stuff deprecated, but then again there are also people able to use older browsers and stuff like that to still get into some of the leakages and make use of the vulnerabilities of them. So well, it doesn't hurt to implement them anyway. So why don't you? That's more of my opinion. It's an easy fix, but again, I'm also putting a side note on that, because in a few years, well, who's going to use Netscape Navigator? But okay, but still, at this time, I think if it doesn't hurt to add another header. So why wouldn't you? Just to make sure that someone who can download an older browser and use it, that's also a possibility. Yeah?
Rather be safe than sorry.
Yeah, that would be my opinion. But yeah, that's also a matter of opinion. I can also imagine that teams choose to do another side of that and say, well, we don't implement it. Okay, fine.
Perfect. And then we've got time for one more question. So it's not specifically to ZAP specifically, but someone's asked, OWASP has a ton of interesting projects, but they have no idea where to go to learn about all of them. What resources should they look at? Where do they discover helpful tools? Things like that. Now, I know you did share a few URLs within your talk, but is there somewhere like someone can go for sort of more general OWASP information and how to get involved and what to do?
Okay, yeah. So that's more like a broader way to get involved. I guess there is, and I have don't have the URL right now, but I will share it later with you. If you want to get involved with more projects of the whole OWASP program, I would hardly encourage that. So yeah, I'm gonna share that, of course.
Amazing. Well, that's all the time we have for today. But for anyone watching, don't forget we've got DevSecCon London next week, which is also a live session. So wherever you're on the world, please take advantage of that whilst we're obviously waiting to go back into in-person events. But Ricky, again, thank you so much. Really enjoyed today's session. For anyone listening, obviously Ricky is on the Slack community. So if you're watching this after it's been live, or you've shared it with a colleague, or now you've just got a new question that's popped into your head, please reach out to Ricky on Slack. He's more than happy to answer them. Or Ricky, what is your Twitter handle?
My own name, Ricky van Rijn. I've got it it's all the way back. Where is it? Here, in the middle, at Ricky van Rijn.
Perfect. So if anyone has any more questions for Ricky, please reach out to him. Again, Slack, Twitter, smoke signals, all the rest of it. We're here. But have a wonderful time, and we'll see you all again soon.
Yes, thank you. And please get in touch. I will gladly think with you on how to integrate or have some shares of thoughts about anything about OWASP ZAP or other flagship projects.
Amazing. Thank you.